Comics are two things. Writing and...
Ink?
Fart.
Lettering.
Hey, welcome to another edition of iFanboy, the comic book discussion show. My name is Ron. I'm here with Connor.
Hi.
And Josh.
Art!
Your name is Art?
No.
Is that what the A stands for?
A bridge over troubled water. I don't know how that song goes. Art Garfunkel.
Sing. We are going to talk about our comic book artists. I know that seems like an incredibly broad thing to do.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
But one of the things about understanding comics is to understand not only
There's a book about it called that.
stories,
It's a visual medium.
but sort of talking about what art does for us, and I think we're going to talk about some of our favorite artists that like the things we used to really like, and then as we've matured and become more sophisticated in our comic book reading, because we have to do it all the time, and if you don't learn anything through that, then you're just not paying attention. How our tastes have changed, and sort of the things that we look for now, and some of the guys and girls in comic book art that really get us excited, and the things that. They do excite us for comics.
They give you a comics boner.
I didn't say that.
I did.
Yeah.
So, all right, yeah, cool. So let's do it.
Yes.
I'm on board. I like it. Comics, art.
I'm curious, like how early when you first started
This is getting really weird.
when you started reading.
How
comics,
old were you when you had your first comics boner?
This is all you. Like what's the first artist that you remember? Because for a long time when you read comics, you weren't really aware of the people doing them, I think, as kids. And then at a certain point, you're all of a sudden you start recognizing a name or a style or something like that. So who's your first favorite artist?
Not so much first favorite artist, but we've talked about this before. For me, it's what art style, what artist defined a look early on. So for me, I had an Incredible Hulk mug with the John Buscema Hulk breaking out of a thing. For me, that's Hulk. When I think of Hulk, that's Hulk.
Yeah.
I had a Superman something, and it had a Kurt Swan. And so that's Superman for me, Kurt Swan. I didn't know it was Kurt Swan. I didn't know it was John Buscema at the time.
Yeah,
but
you don't really know the name.
Exactly, but it totally defined.
No, that's after you become a nerd that you learn the names.
Yeah.
You read the credits.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, probably the first artist that I noticed was Jim Lee.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was just the right place, right time, or wrong place, wrong time.
Because he got the credit, prominent credit.
Because I got into X-Men, and the thing was that I had read comics up to that point, and I had seen comics, and they were all the kind of house styles, or like the moderate normal style, but you know what I mean, like standard styles of the '80s. And then I got this X-Men issue that looked unlike anything else, and there's a big box of art by Jim Lee, and I thought he was related to Stan Lee, so there was. Couldn't have been more wrong about that one, but yes.
Live in California.
So for me, probably the first artist that I remember is Jim Lee.
And that would influence you would buy books because Jim Lee was drawing them?
He owns all of Jim Lee's books.
I own Jim Lee. No,
do you
I don't.
I bet you do own.
I own everything Jim Lee's drawn. Yeah, we talked about this already.
Yeah,
Yeah, everything down to Divine Right.
I bet you do. Who was your?
Well, in the same way, like I knew artists like Dick Sprang, but I didn't know who he was.
There's your first comics boner. It was Dick Sprang, huh?
Oh God! Yes.
Onomatopoeia is always funny.
Kurt Swan, Dick Sprang, Buscema. They're the same guys. When we were young, Buscema was the Hulk guy.
How to draw comics the Marvel way.
It was licensing. Yeah. It was the licensing stuff.
Giordano did all the DC licensing art, so he was a big artist that I knew the art anyway.
Yeah.
And when I read those old Batmans, Dick Sprang was the artist of those Batmans. But the first guy I knew, like for Jim Lee, was Maguire on Justice League.
Yep.
Was when I bought that.
Again, a totally unique, defined, kind of didn't look like anything else.
Yeah, exactly. That's
and to this day, is he still your favorite artist?
He's probably my favorite all-time artist. Yeah.
Right. His most recent stuff too, right? And then the brand new stuff, right?
Well, yeah.
That retroactive you really liked, right?
Yeah. The art was good. But again, it was different. I remember sitting in the car in the road trip where I had bought the comics at a 7-Eleven. Marveling how they look real.
Yeah.
Because as a kid, you were like, "Ooh, these," especially in the '80s, the comics weren't drawn the way they are now. So it was like,
I really wish we could go back and document the time when we started reading the credits box.
Yeah.
Like noticing who wrote and drew stuff. What about who?
McFarlane.
Yeah.
McFarlane was the first artist that I noticed.
Again, didn't look like anything else.
And that's exactly it.
Yeah.
And the more I kept reading it, the more I kept appreciating it. a little bit at that point. I was just more impressed that there were more lines.
Yeah.
Like, look at all the lines. This must have taken forever. But at the same time, there was that, whatever that standard style was, you know what I mean? That, all Iron Man books looked a certain way, and I'm trying to think of an artist, but I don't
I kind of missed the nose era. The Iron Man nose.
Yeah. But a McFarlane book, I'd never seen anything that looked like that. Yeah. And at the same time, the story that was in it was serious, but the art was, crazy, and it was
big eyes,
and the knees are up, and it's jarring, and it shakes you a little bit, and then you start to appreciate it and be like, oh, it doesn't have
What's
to
interesting,
be totally
though, is
serious.
that Jim Lee informs Ron's tastes. McGuire informs mine, but your tastes have gone completely different.
Yeah, and to where you are now. I mean, you wouldn't count yourself as a McFarlane fan
You're more on my
now.
side of the art style, and McGuire's sort of more realistic,
Sort of.
cartoony,
However,
realistic style.
I've never been one towards a photorealistic style, and I think that McFarlane was one of those. He wasn't
Sean
photorealistic.
Phillips and Michael Lark are both photorealistic.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
I feel like we're forgetting what photorealistic means.
Yeah.
I would never think McFarlane was photorealistic at all.
No.
I mean, Neil Adams is photorealistic.
No, he's not.
Right, yeah, okay, yeah.
So, and I don't tend to be going towards that, but I see what you're saying. We'll get to it.
Yeah.
We're going to get to that.
The more I think about it, I realize that Neil Adams had such an influence that we didn't even know about from all his cover work and all the stuff that he did in the 70s. I mean, I close my eyes and my Batman is Neil Adams.
His Batman, Green Arrow, X-Men stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
He's one of the most important people in comics history.
Yeah, hands down, hands down.
For a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
He would never.
He'll tell you
that.
But he's not wrong.
So how it affects us now? I mean, because it's really interesting. Because I wouldn't say that I'm I still think I'm a Jim Lee fan.
Let me ask you this question in a different way. When you were a kid, did you buy it for the stories or the art?
Story.
Even when you were like 13, 12?
Yep.
You weren't like, oh, Liefeld comic, I want to buy it?
No, I was New Mutants.
So when you bought Youngblood, it's because for the story that you never...
Oh, no. I mean, it was to get his...
There was a point, though, where you were buying the artist, like the Image guys.
Well, it was both. I mean, the thing is, it was both. When the Image guys went... Well, the thing is, the Image... Because I bailed right before Image started, and I missed that first year. And so then I came back with Supreme and the Max. Those are the two Image books
that first year was an era of comics where people bought for the art alone.
Right.
Because no one bought those Image books for the stories.
Right.
At least not at first, because you didn't know the stories.
Yeah, no, and the thing was, I bought them because they were something different. They were new. I mean, it goes back to we don't have to talk about baseball. Do you cheer for the team or the player? Right. I mean, I was buying X-Men, Excalibur, New Mutants, X-Factor because it was all the X books. The artists on X-Factor were not. I mean, until Will Portacio came on, there was some rough art. John Bogdanov and
Simon. John Bogdanov is a very good example.
He's very good.
Of that sort of 80s.
Yeah, exactly. Walt was on years before that. Yeah, but right when I got in was X-Factor, and Will Portacio took it over, and then it had some stability and went that Jim Lee style. But I was buying for the titles themselves, and then. Admittedly, I went to Image to pick them up because I remembered I liked them from what they did. Mm-hmm. But I stuck on I'm a story, which is weird because I wouldn't consider myself a story. Oh wow, my head is all going crazy.
Were there any artists?
That's the question. How did you look at it as a kid versus now? I mean, you're mostly a story guy, but you're also becoming much more appreciative of art in the last couple of years.
Definitely, I think
because you used to not really care so much about the art.
Yeah,
of the story.
no, I didn't, and there were artists I didn't really like, but as long as the story was good. But now bad art can ruin a thing for me.
I have a hard time, no matter how good the story is. Yeah. If I really don't like the art, I can't, because it's a visual medium.
There's a couple of things though that I
just don't buy books of bad art.
I feel like I can. There's a difference between bad art and then art that I don't really like the style of, but is mechanically sound.
Well, we're not critiquing here. What we're saying is, for us, we're talking about as an emotional response, what we consider to be bad art.
Yeah,
and we're not so. For instance, with X-Men, as much as I love the story, I can't buy the Greg Land books. For me, that's bad art.
Right, yeah.
So I just can't enjoy it.
I'm not disagreeing with you, yeah.
What I'm saying is that's always been the way. If the art has been really bad, I can't get by the story.
Yeah, but I need to know what happens. But it's interesting because I also will chase down artists. Like I will try. Like there are artists who I'll try whatever they do. I might not stick with it because
you'll buy everything that Steve Dillon draws.
No, I wouldn't say I bought everything.
He didn't buy the Avengers, the Ultimate Avengers.
Okay.
With Mark Millar. Did you buy that?
Yeah. I totally did. Yeah, I bought those. I love Steve Dillon. But no,
you were buying what was the David Way book?
I did stop that. I did stop buying that because I just couldn't take it. The Wolverine Origins book, Dan Way and Steve Dillon was doing. Even though I love the Steve Dillon art, I just couldn't take the story, so I dropped it. Yeah, no, I mean there are some people who I definitely will buy everything they do. Jim Lee, Terry Moore. Although I didn't buy the Fables that Terry Moore did. I'm kind of off the buying it. Like 5 years ago, I go through phases.
Yeah.
It's tough. I don't know. I just liked what I liked.
You know what's funny is that I was such a huge fan of that McFarlane Spider-Man that the person who followed him,
Eric Larson.
Larson.
I hated Eric Larson for years.
Well, that was just that.
I thought
The style was vastly different.
I
love
know,
it,
but
though.
it was like it was similar to it, but it was way more pointy and angular, and that really bothered me.
I love the Spider-Man. His Spider-Man was great.
Yeah, oh, it bothered me for years, and I was like, "What is this? This guy's just ripping off." Turns out he goes on to be Eric Larson, which is
well. Let's talk about you because you, Rajesh, you probably changed the most. What we said earlier,
It's like therapy.
You used to not care. Now the art's a big deal for you. What's changed, or what do you look for now?
I have learned a lot more about what it is I like about an artist.
So what is it?
Well, for a really long time, like the really big artists are the guys who over-rendered a lot. You know, if you don't not over-rendered but Jim Lee is a guy like there's a ton of lines on that paper.
Yep.
And it's a lot of heroic
Detailed, very
posing
detailed.
and things like that. And I've gravitated towards stuff that's much more stripped down and sticking with sort of very good with the basics of storytelling and cartooning and stuff like that.
Sort of classic style.
Very, very much in the classic style. I sort of went backwards, and I really came to appreciate as I learned more about like Jack Kirby, and you look at his work, and then so as you go.
But he's also got tons of lines on the page.
He does.
Yeah, well, that's a little different. Like when he would draw his big god machines, they were really detailed and stuff. But his figures,
More lines or
and
less
things-
depending on when Vince collecting.
Yeah,
Yes.
I didn't want those lines.
What, the chair doesn't need to be in the art picture? What, doesn't help the story?
You know, but I can see a style of art now, and you know, there's definite outliers, things that don't really count. I think Michael Lark is one that you mentioned where I really like his style because I don't think it looks like anybody else, but it is sort of photo-y, but it doesn't seem to have that stiffness that a lot of more photorealistic artists have. I've never been a fan of Alex Ross because I feel like it's very posed feeling.
Yeah.
And a lot of the painted
stiff.
guys, a lot of Marvel cover artists for like the mid-2000s.
Durjovic.
Yeah, a lot of painted style, and I never really liked that much.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of painted either. It's tough. I wouldn't nail. I mean, I have a hard time nailing down. This is the kind of art I like.
Because all art's different.
Yeah, exactly. And it's that emotional response, and it's that someone to knock my socks off. Somebody simple, clean lines like Cliff Chang or Mike Allred to the Jim Lee to Alan Davis to to Eric Larson.
I feel like those are all like slightly different reasons, though. Like you like some of like Chang and Allred. I feel like you like the design of it.
Yes, yeah, the modern pop kind of style.
Alan Davis, like there's a retro.
Yeah.
Attractiveness to it and things like that.
He's also a really good storyteller and really good at drawing characters.
Yes.
It's all different kinds of things.
Well, when you watch it, look at an Alan Davis page, like I don't love him, but I can totally appreciate him.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go as gaga over figures as I will over page layouts. I mean, you give me a good page layout, and that's a huge part of the art for me as well. I mean,
But the thing about a page layout is, if you go too nuts and you make it too big, it's not good, even though it looks like it should be impressive.
Well,
and there's only a few guys. There's not that many guys, I think, who can do a crazy layout and make it good.
Something as an example.
Alan Davis is one.
Well, yeah, Alan Davis is one. I mean, go back to Neil Adams. He wrote the book on it. But like even most recently on the new Captain America series, Steve McNiven has impressed the hell out of me with his layouts.
Yeah.
He's doing panel stuff that I've never seen him do before.
Yeah,
that's great.
And I think part of that has to do with my being aware of what design is a little more, and so it's good design mixed at the same time with good storytelling techniques. Good storytelling, all it is illustrating the action that happens on the page in a clear and concise manner.
Yeah.
There's not unnecessary things unless you're trying to manipulate time, things like that.
Right.
I would say that a really good example of somebody who's become one of my favorite artists is Chris Samnee. And as I've watched him come up over the last few years,
so good.
The reason I like it is because it's stripped down and there's not much extraneous stuff there, and at the same time, he's a classic storyteller. I mean, he's just so good at showing what happens on the page. And the acting of those characters, acting's really important to me.
Yeah, well, his use of light blew me away. I mean, remember that sketch I got years ago of the Cyclops sketch where there's so much negative space, the I-beam and stuff like the way he masters shadows and things like that.
He's one of those guys that his sketches have always been really
his sketch
impressive.
style and his comic style are different styles.
Yeah, totally.
And like, because there are some guys who can do amazing pinup sketches, covers, things like that, but their interiors are not
so good.
Not amazing, but he can actually do both of those things. But you're right, they're different.
He's very black heavy on his sketches. He does occasionally, like that Captain America story that was very shadowy.
Yeah.
He gets to use that style, but for the most part, like his Spider-Man wasn't.
Yeah,
but that just doesn't.
Well, a couple of panels here and there, but not across the board. So what floats your boat?
Well, it's funny you mentioned
Norm
it's hard because I don't I wouldn't nail it down to one style,
Right.
because I like Eric Larson and I like Alex Ross and I like Kevin McGuire and I like Chris Samnee and I like Gabe Hardman and I like Amanda Connor.
Yep.
And it just depends on how successful you are and that particular style you choose. I tend to go for more of the clean style. Like overall, if you were to really get down to it, when I was a kid, it was McGuire, and then Adam Hughes did Justice League for a little while, which I really like that kind of clean style.
Wait, he drew comics?
Yeah, he drew the interiors. Yeah, they were good.
You're kidding me.
But it was similar enough to McGuire that it wasn't like the Marvel stuff at the time. It was very Jim Lee, Will Spatasio, like a lot of lines. It was very clean. And but then guys now, like probably Darwyn Cooke would be one of my favorite.
Well, yeah.
And
Darwyn Cooke is... he's a really good example of, like, just a clean, great storyteller.
Yep.
You know, there's not extra that doesn't
That
need to be
Rocketeer
there.
story, and the Rocketeer Adventures are so good. I mean, and that's the thing. It's like an economy of line. It's like as we've gotten older, I've noticed that a good artist can do as much with 3 lines as a mediocre artist can do with 17. You know what I mean? Like, boom, boom. Someone is Phil Noto. Subtlety of minimal lines. You know what I mean? Just does what he needs to. Doesn't look like any other work that is out there.
I saw he's like doing comics as photojournalism. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Jock is probably one of my favorite interior artists. Now he's not like any of those.
No, he's kind of impressionist almost.
Yeah, and it's messy. The faces are kind of jagged and weird. But it's not because he's putting so much there because he's trying to impress you. It's just
a different style.
It's loose.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's the great thing about art and comics in general is there can be different styles and they can all be great in their own way. And you can like them all for their own reasons.
Yeah.
I can have a Jock book in my stack with a Darwyn Cooke book, with a Samnee book, with a Jim Lee book, and an Alex Ross cover, and I can like them all for different reasons because that's the great thing about art. Now there's style. At the end of the day, I'll say, well, I would love it if Darwyn Cooke drew every comic there was. But then
you'd get sick of that style.
Right, yeah.
I would get sick of it, but you'd lose the differences in the other stuff. But I mean, ultimately, that's probably, if I had to pick one style, comics have to be drawn one way, pick away, I'd probably say, all right, everyone draws like Darwyn Cooke, and that'll be comics. But then you lose out.
I'd give McKelvey the cake. He can just draw all my comics.
But wouldn't you want something else? Like, wouldn't you want a different kind of thing? Because, like, some people are, it was interesting because, like, I used to look at Brian Hitch pages and I'd be like, this is the best thing that's ever been done.
Yeah.
And I'm
also
over
very photorealistic, though.
Yeah, very.
But I'm over it.
Yeah.
Like, I get it.
Also, it could be argued that he's not quite as good as he used to be.
Could be.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Wolverine.
Anyway.
No, I think that's fair. I think authority work versus...
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at artists at their epoch or their best, I mean, like, his authority work is amazing. Even his Ultimates is amazing, But yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, that's the thing. It's diversity and also it's subjective, and that what might work for one might not work for another. I mean, I've heard people who, we love Fear Agent, and I've heard people who love Tony Moore but didn't really get Jerome Pena, which I can't understand why at all, because they're both awesome.
Yeah.
Completely different, but amazing,
One of the things that we didn't really mention is we've talked about more simple styles, but there was a little real cartoony sort of era that came up. Mike Ringo sort of, was one, because for a while those guys couldn't get work.
Right,
Darwyn Cooke originally couldn't get work because
that's why he went into animation, because he couldn't get comics work.
But Ringo, and then we've talked a little bit before about guys like Steve Rolston and Phil Bond, who draw on that.
Well, you had Mike Parabeck in the early 90s, guys who drew like similar, like Darwyn Cooke they were 10 years too early.
Oh, great. Yeah, great
and I
stuff,
like that, but I wouldn't want it all to look like that.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean,
but I'm glad that it exists.
Yeah, exactly.
But you guys are right. Like, I definitely moved away from McFarlane for what I think it was just I didn't like the stories that he was doing, and eventually it wore me down. And I was like,
what's funny is early Marvel all looked the same because it was all Jack Kirby.
Yeah,
pretty much. It was Ditko and Simon, but it was pretty much.
Well, they were supposed to draw like him. Buscema
it's just funny that was like
that
was how comics used to be made. They all used to have the same house style.
Yeah, and the '80s all looked similar as well. Mike Zecchi kind of.
So if you're looking at in terms of the difference in comics, the breadth of art. Yeah. Probably now is the greatest.
Oh yeah, there's so much diversity.
Yeah,
and I mean, you can look at like some of the Captain America issues from earlier this year, where they started mixing up when they had Somni and Brightweiser and Butch Geist all in the same issue. You had such varying different styles, but telling a similar story. I actually was talking. I was in the comic shop the other day talking about the use of multiple artists on one book, similar to Detective Comics with Frank Avila and Jock.
Frank Avila's one of the great guys.
And then also like I like the idea of using multiple artists and telling a flashback sequence in one artist and the present day sequence in another.
Yeah, that really works.
Yeah, it really works well. It gives you a little more taste of that diversity and all that.
Well, in the again, Captain America.
Yeah.
They've
done a lot of multiple. That's because they've been doing a lot of.
But early on, Steve Epting, who by the way is a guy who
reinvented himself as far as I'm
Yeah,
concerned.
totally.
In the 90s, he was an Avengers artist too. I was very average.
Remember we found that book in the back issue bin at Heroes Con? Yeah, and we're like, this is Steve Hefton.
I remember specifically because I bought Avengers at that time, and I remember not liking his issues, and he totally reinvented himself.
Well, somebody like Mark Bagley as well. I mean, like I bought the old New Warriors of Mark Bagley, and he was as generic as they came. And then Thunderbolts, he evolved a little more, and then Ultimate Spider-Man, he became Bagley, and like that was kind of like what his thing. So,
well, those early Captain Americas, they would use Michael Lark for the flashback.
Yes, yep.
And it was enough of a visual difference, and also his style looks like old World War II photographs.
Yeah.
So that was.
It's a very good time if you're into the comic art side of things. I mean, there's so many great artists out there.
There's a little of everything.
It's funny because the 90s is known as the art period because that's what drove the sales, and now writing drives the sales. But there's more great art out there now than there has ever been.
Well, then you look. I mean, you've got guys all over the place. On one side you have Scotty Young, and on another side you've got somebody completely opposite of him that I can't think of. Salvador LaRocca. No. Remember when he used to draw different?
Yeah, absolutely.
I really loved his early Salvador LaRocca.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The point is, though, if you like art, this is a great time for comics.
Yes.
There's a lot of great stuff out there.
So go to iFanboy.com. That'll be posted at this episode. Tell us what artists you like, why, what art you... No, not that you don't like. Just celebrate. Know the positive.
Yeah.
What art do you like and why? At iFanboy.com.
Email us at contact@ifanboy.com and call our voicemail line at 888-FANBOYS 326-2697.
If you can find a thesis for this show, you can follow us at
You can tell
twitter.com/ifanboy.
what the show is about. Follow us on Twitter.
Listen, it's art. I can't put rules on it. Or you can follow us at facebook.com/ifanboy. I think that's all.
Yes.
This is our impressionistic episode.
A pox on your house.
Yeah. Rick Remender said that to me.
He was mad. Is that a sword?
Yeah.
You're going to ask things like that in the department. You don't know what the answer is going to be.
I know. That's not a real sword.
No.
It says Jack Sparrow. Oh, no.
Oh, it says
Oh, no. What are you going to do for New York Comic Con?
no. Oh, I hate that. What's worse is fine. I can get at the con. I can understand that. It's 1 a.m. in the bar.
Right.
Like, just break character, please. I know. It's like...
Look at my teeth.
I have a samurai sword somewhere around here.
Do you realize that when, like, one of our numerous breakdowns will be me attacking a Jack Sparrow at a con? Just fucking stop!
Well, we
Just stop!
we know where the bail bonds places are.